The damage report is in on the damage that Trump's bombs caused in Iran, and the commander-in-chief, who is busy taking a victory lap, is not going to like what he hears. According to an explosive report, no pun intended, the New York Times is saying the mission may have missed the mark. That is according to U.S. and Israeli officials. Please stand by because I have all the details for you next. This story is a contrast in narratives because the New York Times report that you'll see in just a minute is different than what Trump's General Dan Kane said this morning about Operation Midnight Hammer, which sounds kind of like a heavy metal band opening for Ozzy Osbourne. Have a listen to the propaganda from Trump's Pentagon, and then I'll share what the journalists at the New York Times are saying that may signal mission incomplete.
At approximately 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2:10 a.m. Iran time, the lead B-2 dropped 2 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weapons on the first of several aim points at Fordo. As the president stated last night, the remaining bombers then hit their targets as well, with a total of 14 MOPs dropped against 2 nuclear target areas. All 3 Iranian nuclear infrastructure targets were struck between 6:40 p.m. and 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, that's about 2:10 in the morning local time in Iran, with the Tomahawk missiles being the last to strike at Esfahan to ensure we retain the element of surprise throughout the operation. Following weapons release, the Midnight Hammer strike package exited Iranian airspace and the package began its return home. We are unaware of any shots fired at the package on the way out. Iran's fighters did not fly, and it appears that Iran's surface-to-air missile systems did not see us. Throughout the mission, we retained the element of surprise. In total, U.S. forces employed approximately 75 precision-guided weapons during this operation. This included, as the president stated last night, 14 30,000-pound GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, marking the first ever operational use of this weapon. I know that battle damage is of great interest. Final battle damage will take some time, but initial battle damage assessments indicate that all 3 sites sustained extremely severe damage and destruction. More than 125 U.S. aircraft participated in this mission, including B-2 stealth bombers, multiple flights of 4th and 5th generation fighters, dozens and dozens of air refueling tankers, a guided missile submarine, and a full array of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft, as well as hundreds of maintenance and operational professionals. As the Secretary said, this was the largest B-2 operational strike in U.S. history and the second longest B-2 mission ever flown, exceeded only by those in the days following 9/11.
Now that report sounded like an unmitigated W for USA, right? Well, history tells us that journalists often have a different story to tell than military officials, and here's what the New York Times is saying today. A report that may prevent Trump and Kane from pinning medals on each other, at least just yet. Found under their most recent live updates, the headline reads, U.S. cash strikes on Iran nuclear sites as limited attack. And it goes on to say,
Trump administration officials emphasized that the strikes were not intended to be the start of an all-out war with Iran, which vowed to defend itself. Pentagon officials said that the facilities sustained severe damage, but that it was too soon to say whether Iran retained some nuclear capability.
And here's the part that General Kane somehow left out of his press conference.
A senior U.S. official acknowledged that the attack on Fordo, Iran's most critical site, had not destroyed the heavily fortified facility, but said that it had been severely damaged. 2 Israeli officials with knowledge of the matter also said it appeared that Iran had moved equipment, including uranium, from the site before the strikes.
And something else that General Kane left out is the answer to the question, what about radioactive fallout? The Times once again picks up the slack.
Here's what you need to know. Potential damage. The nuclear sites attacked by the United States include Iran's 2 major uranium enrichment centers, the heavily fortified mountain facility at Fordo, and a larger enrichment plant at Natanz. Satellite imagery taken shortly after the strikes at Fordo reveals damage and likely entry holes for the American bunker buster bombs. The International Atomic Energy Agency said it had not detected any increases in radiation outside the sites. International reaction. America's allies and adversaries responded with a mix of condemnations and calls for restraint, while Gulf nations expressed dismay amid fears of retaliation.
It is very likely that Donald Trump now has bone spurs in his shoulder after patting himself on the back for Operation Midnight Hammer. His general, Dan King, took to the podium to paint the operation as a flawless, engineered knockout punch to Iran's nuclear program. But journalists at the New York Times who don't have to report to Trump have a slightly different story. They are reporting that the strikes damaged but did not destroy Iran's most critical site. In fact, Iran may have seen it coming and moved the uranium before the bombs dropped, so success is arguable. And while Trump's White House calls it a limited, targeted strike, Gulf nations are sounding the alarms, and many Americans, including MAGA Americans, are panicked over Trump's aggressive move, a move he said he would not do. As this story continues to unfold, it looks less like mission accomplished and more like mission ambiguous, with Trump once again writing narratives that the Pentagon propaganda machine and the Republican Party has to support. But one thing is certain, if this turns out to be
World War III,
we can count on Donald Trump saying,
this is Biden's war.